The exterminator who charged you $300 last spring likely used a powder that cost about $2 at the pharmacy on your corner. Different packaging, same active molecule. Today we are covering how to wipe out a cockroach infestation using boric acid, placed in exactly the right spots in exactly the right way, and how that $2 box carries its kill through an entire colony you will never see, never reach, and never have to spray directly. American households spend an average of several $100s a year on exterminator service contracts for a problem that can be solved permanently once you understand the actual method. Most people who try boric acid on their own say it did not work, and there is almost always one specific reason: a placement mistake that turns a genuinely lethal compound into invisible furniture that roaches simply walk around forever. Let us start with what boric acid actually is, because the plain white powder from the pharmacy undersells it considerably. It is a naturally occurring boron compound. Boron, oxygen, and water, and it has been used as a pest control agent for a very long time. Long enough that it has become essentially unpatented, publicly available chemistry that an entire pest control industry has since built expensive branding and service contracts on top of. That history is also exactly why it costs about $2. Here's the actual kill chain. A cockroach walks through a dusting of boric acid. The powder adheres to its legs and body, since cockroaches have waxy, slightly adhesive cuticles that are excellent for climbing walls and catastrophic for walking through a fine chemical powder. The cockroach then heads back toward the wall or the nest, grooming itself constantly along the way because cockroaches groom almost non-stop, like very small, very unwelcome cats. In that grooming process, it ingests the boric acid. Once inside, the compound disrupts the digestive and nervous systems and kills the insect within roughly 72 hours. Not minutes, days. That delay is not a flaw in the compound. It is the actual weapon, and here is why. Cockroaches are necrophagous, meaning they eat their own dead. A genuinely unpleasant detail with enormous tactical value for us. Peer-reviewed entomology research has specifically studied this exact phenomenon, confirming that cockroaches poisoned by a slow-acting compound, like boric acid, fipronil, or several other common active ingredients reliably die back inside the shelter or nest, rather than out in the open, where the colony then cannibalizes the corpse and ingests the same toxin secondhand. The roach that walked through your dusting does not die out in the open where you would find it and throw it away. It walks back to the nest and dies there, surrounded by others. Those others eat it. Now they have ingested boric acid too. They die, and the roaches behind them eat those. One cockroach walking through a properly applied dusting can trigger a chain reaction that propagates deep into a colony you have never seen and cannot reach with any spray. Compare that to a standard aerosol spray, which kills the one roach directly in front of you, immediately out in the open. You killed a scout. Boric acid kills the scout and sends it home loaded. Where you place it matters more than almost anything else here. Cockroaches are thigmotactic, meaning they are strongly drawn to tight spaces where their bodies make contact with the surface on two sides simultaneously. This is why they live inside cracks behind baseboards, inside cabinet hinges, along the back of drawers, behind outlet covers, and under the motor housing of your refrigerator. They are not wandering your countertop by choice. They are running a highway system through every tight, warm, dark channel available in your kitchen, and your job is to dust that highway, not the open floor. Behind the refrigerator motor is generally the single highest value target in most kitchens. Warm, dark, tight, and almost never disturbed. Pull the bottom kick plate off your dishwasher and dust the channel along the back wall. Dust inside the hinge recesses of every lower cabinet, the gap where the baseboard meets the flooring, and the channel behind your stove's kick drawer. And here is one spot almost nobody thinks of. Remove the outlet covers in your kitchen and bathroom and apply a light dusting directly into the wall cavity around the electrical box. Cockroaches frequently travel through wall voids between outlets, and that application reaches them in a space no spray can follow and nothing else disturbs for months. A properly applied dusting in a dry spot can realistically last 6 months to a year, because boric acid does not evaporate or biodegrade on its own. It simply sits there working. The only things that remove it are moisture or direct physical cleaning. If you are finding this useful, subscribing is free and genuinely helps this channel keep making practical breakdowns like this one. Now, the part most people get wrong, and the reason the spray can industry is not exactly rooting for you to watch this. Most commercial cockroach sprays are repellents first and killers second. The cockroach encounters the chemical barrier, senses it, and retreats. It does not die, it relocates. Spray under the sink and the colony frequently does not die. It migrates to the bathroom, the bedroom, or the walls of the next room over. You have not solved the infestation, you have made it larger and more spread out. Pest control professionals actually have informal language for this pattern. Visit 1 moves the colony, visit 2 chases it further, visit 3 finds roaches in new places that were clean before. It is not a cure, it functions more like a recurring management cycle. Boric acid does not repel and does not trigger that scatter response. It sits there invisibly and gets carried directly back to the source. Here's the thing that ruins nearly every DIY boric acid attempt, and once you hear it, most failed attempts make complete sense. Most people apply far too much. They pour thick, visible white lines along the baseboard, small piles in corners. It feels logical. More powder should mean more contact and more kills. But cockroaches have existed in something close to their current form for roughly 350 million years, and their survival instincts are genuinely precise. A thick white line along a baseboard is a terrain change they can smell, feel, and see clearly, and they will walk around it every single time, indefinitely. A dusting so thin you can barely tell it is there, a nearly invisible ghost layer, does not register as a threat at all. It simply reads as floor. They walk directly through it in the dark, hundreds of times, grooming immediately afterward exactly the way this method depends on. That is the entire secret. Apply it so thinly that you are genuinely unsure whether you applied enough, and it gets walked through constantly. Apply it thick enough to see clearly and it becomes a permanent detour sign that roaches will avoid for as long as it sits there. One more critical detail. Moisture cancels this out completely. Boric acid dissolves in water, so reapply after any exposure near pipes, sinks, or genuinely damp areas. Stick to dry surfaces only. Here's what to actually expect in the first week. Activity may briefly appear to get worse before it gets better. Roaches disturbed by dying colony members frequently become more mobile and more visible during this period, which is the chain kill actively propagating through the nest. It looks like the treatment is failing. It is not. With a correctly executed application, visible activity should start noticeably dropping somewhere around day 7 to 10, and by roughly week 3, most households see the infestation effectively resolved. One honest limitation worth stating plainly, boric acid is lethal to live cockroaches, but it does not penetrate eggs. Cockroach eggs come sealed inside a small, leathery protective case called an authica, and the powder simply cannot reach inside that casing. A serious infestation can sustain itself purely on existing egg load, even while the adult population is dying off. For a genuinely heavy problem, pairing boric acid with an insect growth regulator called Gentrol, roughly $12 online, adds meaningful coverage since it interrupts cockroach reproduction at the egg and nymph stage. Boric acid kills what is currently alive. The growth regulator makes sure what hatches next never becomes the next generation of the problem. Together they form a genuinely complete system. One number worth knowing to put the reproduction side of this in context. A single female German cockroach typically produces somewhere between 4 and 8 egg cases across her lifetime, and each case generally carries 30 to 48 individual eggs. That works out to roughly 200 offspring from one single female over the course of a few months, which is exactly why seeing only 1 or 2 roaches is almost never an accurate picture of what is actually happening inside your walls. So here's the whole method laid out plainly. A $2 box of powder, a ghost thin layer along the hidden highways behind your appliances, and a kill mechanism that runs entirely on the colony's own natural behavior, carrying the poison home and doing your work for you. The roaches you see on your counter at night are just the visible edge of an entirely invisible network, and the powder gets carried into the center of that network by the network itself. If you have tried boric acid before and it did not work, go lighter, go deeper into the tight spaces, and stay well away from moisture. That is the entire explanation behind nearly every failed attempt. $2, a ghost thin layer in the right hidden spots, and a colony that carries its own destruction home for you. The next video is already up. Go watch it now.